Hi, Michael.
Hey, Bill, how are you, man?
Oh, good. I put on my nice Hawaiian shirt.
I see that. I feel remiss. I have one upstairs. I feel like I should get it.
Well, you know, I found my summer I wear shorts,
Right.
old Hawaiian shirts. I get them in the thrift store, and sandals or bare feet. You know, that's summer for me. That's great.
Oh, BC, eh?
Yeah, yeah, really.
So,
Hey, speaking of which, I just wanted to tell you that I just walked outside, and we have an apple tree that's about 100 years old or something. It's about pruned down to about 30 feet high, and we planted a rose on it about 20 years ago, and it's a climbing rose.
Oh,
and roses are just coming out here, and there must be, like, no kidding, like 1,000 roses on it right now, and there's probably going to be 10,000 roses on it, 30 feet high, and it's just white, and it's just shimmering with like bumblebees and honeybees, and they're all it's like wow. So
you guys keep bees, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We got a couple hives, and there's a lot of bumblebees and other pollinators. I mean, the whole tree is actually buzzing. You can
so cool.
hear it.
So cool. I would love to see that. Yeah. How long will the roses stay in bloom? Will they still be there in September?
They're just starting now, and it'll probably be for another month. And then there's some that kind of intermittently bloom all summer.
Right.
But the big bloom is just starting. And then the peonies, and it's that's peonies, and the azaleas are just finishing. Our place is like a big bouquet right now. It's really
I can't. We're Julie and I. We just booked our flight yesterday. Actually, we're excited to come out, man. It's going to be fun.
Well, we're really excited to see you guys, huh? It'd be cool. So yeah.
So. Yeah, this is it's funny talking to you. I've only seen you sort of walking.
Really?
It's like, but like what Linda was saying, I was like, thinking, like, well, who else can I talk to about this, right? Oh, yeah. Bill. What do you think?
Yeah, like I was the number 2 student, huh? Linda was number 1. I was like, in that chronological order of things, I was like, and next.
Well, I have a question.
Okay.
So, I mean, I have a few. I don't generally write any down, but I did this time, Bill. I don't know why. We'll see what happens. But Linda, when Linda and I emailed last, she said, make sure to ask Bill about being Sid's best friend.
Okay.
And I'm trying to decide whether that's the first question.
Well,
let me throw it. So I'm going to throw it. I'll throw it out as, that can be the first one, or it can be, tell me about how you first met him.
Well, I met Sid through Linda. What happens is that we'd moved to Salt Spring Island. I was being a hippie. I was kind of going crazy. I went with the old rock and roll band to be a sound man, and I was like 22 years old or 23 years old or something like that, and I came back. I really loved Linda, and I was really going through a dark night of the soul.
Right.
And I came back to see her and tell her I love her, and try to patch up my troubles. And she said she'd met an enlightened man. I said, oh yeah, right. And she says, would you like to see him? I said, well, sure, I'd like to meet an enlightened man. And I'd been reading spiritual books. I kind of knew what enlightenment meant.
Right.
But, and so she took me to meet Sid, and we drove over, and she'd only met him a couple of times, and it was quite exciting. She told me she was writing a book with him, and went and met Sid, and he was just glowing, huh? He was just glowing, and he was so nice. He was such a nice guy, and I went in, we had a cup of tea, and we talked, and smoked a joint, and it was really good. I liked him, and he started to talk and explain what his experience was, and I was like, wow, this is really good. But I was a long time, I was really skeptical. Like I was listening for him to like make a mistake,
Right.
or I was waiting for some ego to come up, or I was waiting for, for him to, and like it didn't happen, huh? It didn't happen. It didn't happen like they,
So
and
how long how long did you give him before you kind of accepted that this was the real
it,
thing?
it was a while. Like I opened my heart to him, huh?
Yeah, right.
And we bonded, and it was. Well, I don't know whether it was weeks or months. It was a long time ago, like this guy's the real thing, huh?
Oh, shit.
And it was neat, and we were like really good friends, huh? We go for a walk on the beach, or the other thing that I found that I do with a lot of my friends is I work with them.
Right.
We don't play, we chop wood, or we'll uh, build something, or kind of like guy stuff, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Look
yeah.
under the litter truck,
Right, yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah,
all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't really like we were playing, but we were spending time together that was like play.
That's so cool. How like, so what's it like? I mean, your best friend, is that a fair approximation? Were you guys best buds?
Well, that's something that what happened is because Sid didn't have there was no ego there, huh? I drop my ego, and you're just these two boys playing, huh? Even if it's like, with a hood under the truck, or you're chopping wood, or you're whatever you're doing, and you have that bonding, and that feeling that of like, this is a really good friend. I could tell this guy anything.
Right.
He's the friend I've always been looking for.
Right. Yeah, an instant bond or kinship, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah, exactly. And it was just kind of like, that's what it was like. And it was kind of interesting, because I thought we have this special connection, and we did. But what happened is Sid had that special kind of connection with everyone. So everyone that kind of came along, they'd be with Sid, and they share this intimacy, and you get high with them. You just get a contact high from them,
Yeah,
and everyone felt that Sid was their best friend, and he was their best friend.
yeah. That's
But even after, sometimes he'd get mad at you, and you think you were an asshole. You still think that he's my best friend.
well, so what's it like? Okay, it's just because you brought that up. What's it like when an enlightened man gets pissed off at you?
Oh, it's
And what
like,
does he get pissed off
it,
about?
it really hurts, huh? It
Right,
really hurts, because you really love this guy, huh?
right,
And you can see you've made some social flub, or you lost you got into your ego, and you did something stupid, or you
right.
acted in an appropriate way, and it's really learning, because there's just kind of a look, and it's kind of like, oh, and you'd say, oh, you could see what that was. Like, whether you said something inappropriately, or you acted inappropriately, or you said something that was coming from ego, or from insecurity, or from some kind of pain, huh?
Right,
And
right.
it was just kind of it was really learning. That's how you really learn, huh? Just, oh, okay.
So he kept you guys in line, eh?
Oh, well, yeah, yeah, and that was learning, huh?
Yeah. Well, it sounds. I mean, it almost sounds a little bit like the same relationship, or similar to relationships I've had with karate instructors, with martial arts instructors, where
Yeah, yeah,
where there's I mean, there's a bond, but there's an accountability, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
yeah, 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 and that's how you learn, huh?
Yeah. Well,
You,
absolutely.
I mean, you really learn from that, huh?
Well, I always felt that you didn't want to, because you didn't want to let the person down. You were even more vigilant.
Exactly, exactly, and because you love them, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah. And
and that would kind of help bring out the higher faculties in like me, and it was, the quest for, like, for truth, and for beauty, and for um the meaning of life, and all of that became see, what did it be? It became the purpose of my life, huh?
Right.
You know, it's kind of like, what are we here for? Well, we're here for to raise our soul.
Right. So this is a perfect segue, right? How long would you like? So you've got a friend relationship that a lot of people have
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
he's super cool. Do you have do you Did you have a student teacher relationship as well? Like would you call it that?
Yeah, we had both relationships. We had like a lot of fun, but it was also, he was, yeah, for sure, he was the teacher.
How long were you a student of his, Bill? I'm using these words, right? But
Yeah. Well, I guess formally until him and Linda, had a split. But informally, like I'm still a student of his, but I'm a student of other people too.
right, right,
You
right.
know,
Did Sid? Did
I
he?
guess what happened is he has awakened in me the search for truth. He
Right.
awakened in me to find out more of what and who and what I could be and who I am. And when you awaken that, I mean, that becomes a
Yeah.
lifelong pursuit. There's no end to it.
Absolutely. Like what I was going to ask was, and you kind of answered it, is did Sid encourage you to look around?
No, I would say that he didn't.
Oh,
And for what Sid would say, you don't have to search.
right,
You have to
right, right,
search until you find it.
right.
And so for a long time, it was just kind of like, but I found the I thirsted for books and for other teachers and for conversations with other people. And he would say that you don't have to search. And there was people coming by all the time that were searching. They were kind of window shopping for a guru, and they'd come and go and come and go, and you'd say, well, they're just searching. He
Right,
said,
right,
once you find it, you don't have to search. But
right.
and I don't feel like I was searching. I feel like I was just kind of uh, looking for affirmation from different from
Mm,
places, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, absolutely.
You know,
What what was it like sitting down with him? So this is like what, 75 here, the early
yeah,
days,
74, 75. Yeah.
475. Like walk me through an experience of sit. Like I don't know, like there were what, half a dozen of you at this point? Like
Yeah.
what does
Yeah.
that look like? You go over to this, like what does that look like?
Okay, you go over to his place, and there's the lawns and the gardens, and it's all funky stuff. It's not like formal gardens or anything like it. It's a little cabin on the beach, and
Yeah.
we had a little cabin in the forest. So we drive over there. We'd get out of the car, go up to the house, and there'd be Sid almost standing at the door waiting for us, invite us in for a cup of tea. And we'd look out the window, and we'd gossip about the other people in kind of like family gossip.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and um, and then we talk about our life, or we talk about our kids, and we talk about our pets, and we talk about um, we'd make plans, and then we'd talk. Linda and him would spend a lot of time talking about the book,
yeah.
and
Right.
he'd come up with his latest writings, and we'd talk about it, and I'd sit around and put my two bits in, and it was really fun. It was really exciting. It was like kind of like this year we're talking right now.
Yeah.
In the normal world with the normal people, you don't talk like this, huh? Because people wouldn't understand.
Right.
And well, you start talking about truth, or you start talking about God, or you start talking about the universal mind, and people get uncomfortable, or they don't want to talk about it, or they think you're nuts. And it's not often that you can find somebody that you can open up to and talk to, like we're talking right now. And I really thirsted for that. And that was and he really liked talking like about what we're talking about right now.
What Well, like, so when's the falling out between Linda and Sid? How many years do you have with him before that happens? Like, I think
I
it's
think about 5.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we remained friends after that. Like we
right,
would we'd go for walks with our dogs, or we'd I remember once Sid had some, it was after Barb had passed away and he was living by himself, and he was having some problems with his back,
right.
you know, kinks and stuff. And I said, well, like I give Linda massages all the time, but I never really gave anyone else a massage. But I said, hey, I'm willing to give it a try, you know.
Right,
And
right.
so I gave him a massage, you know, and he said felt better after. And it was, you know, I mean, it was kind of like, you know, I mean, we were that close, huh?
Yeah, 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 yeah. What's forgot what I was going to ask. Well, I got this enraptured there.
Yeah.
Um, no, let's see. I'll look at my list then. Right. What's in those 5 years? What did you take away? What was it? What was I don't know. What struck you? Not so much struck you about him, but what did you take away from it? What I'm getting towards, I think, is in your words, in your experience with Sid, what was his message for those 5 years that you knew him? What was he talking about?
He was talking about what we could be. He was seeing the potential of everyone,
Oh,
and
wow.
he really helped me to see the potential in me. Like when I met Sid, I was working part time for a rock and roll band as a sound man,
Right.
and we met. Me and Linda met him, and I found I was more than that. And within a few years, you know, I started to work. I started to work as a carpenter,
Right.
as lugging 2x12s up a ladder to the third floor of a you know, as the mule.
Right.
And I, you know, within a year, I was being a carpenter, and within 2 years, I was building houses and a contractor, and it was just opening up to the possibilities. And that was, you know, I built like 30 houses here on the island,
Oh shit. Oh,
and I
wow.
built ourselves a house. And I mean, I just had the supreme confidence in myself. Well, some of it was youth and some of it was stupidity, but a lot of it was just like, you know, I can do this. I can do this. I can imagine it. I can create it. I can, you know, I can be a successful um, part of society. I can be a good husband. I can be a father. I can be a businessman. You know, I was God. I was in Rotary Club with all these like
Really?
Rotarians, huh? I was the builder on the island. It was,
Oh,
God, am I really in Rotary Club? You know?
that's brilliant. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No kidding. 25-year-old ex or hippie still, right? Or
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like a 35-year-old. You know, it's just kind
Right,
of
right,
like
right.
God. So
So what? How
so
did?
he kind of made me help me to realize some of the potential that I had. And what happens, he could see it in everybody,
Well,
and could help them to see that.
well, that's like, can you shine some light on how he did that?
um I think probably he did it by telling stories, huh? Sid was a great storyteller,
Right,
and I knew that a lot of it was just by changing your attitude, what you're doing. Like I know with Jim Wallace as a lawyer,
right,
he said, yeah, you can be a lawyer. You don't have to be the lawyer that you were. You can do it from a new consciousness, a new place, and you can go back into law and do that. And I don't remember exactly what he said to me, but it was, you know, go to work, do a good job, be into it, and the rest of your life will take care of itself. And it did. And and I think it was like that way for a lot of people. Went back to work or went into their careers or something. A lot of people at that time, when we were hippies, huh, we were looking for the meaning of life and for a purpose and for understanding and for help. And Sid told us, you know, to do what we were doing, but just to do it with love, and do it with uh, with with that feeling, and the rest will take care of itself.
what would
Sometimes it didn't. It was, some people did it, and they kind of didn't do it in the right. I mean, not everything was bliss for everyone,
right, of
but,
course.
but
So
yeah.
he was, the sense that I get from both you and Linda is that he was, and from Linda's writing, is that he was very much like, in that sense, very practical. Go and live your life.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Go pound the nails and then go see the customers. When we built this Tudor house, it was way off the wall for my building abilities
Right.
and and everything. But we built it, and it was sitting there. But when it was sitting there, I had like all of these mortgages and bills and payments, and I owed all this money. Huh?
Right.
And it was like time to go to work and earn
Right.
to pay for this thing, huh? And really quickly it happened that I phoned up all the people that I'd ever worked for, that I ever knew, and said, hey, I'm a contractor now, I'm a builder, do you need anything?
Right.
And I would bring people over and show them the house, and they go like, you built this? And I said, well, yeah, I built this is what I can do. And they go, okay, you're my man.
Right.
And pretty soon I had a van. Pretty soon I had a pickup truck, and pretty soon I had a helper, and then I had a couple of helpers, and then we were building, we were building chicken coops and sun decks, and pretty soon we're building foundations, and pretty soon we're building houses, and and then we're building big architectural houses on the water, and you know, uh, I didn't know how to build them, but we built them anyhow. Mm.
Yeah, I can. It was it's a personal question, because I dabbled
Yeah.
in carpentry as well. Did you ever have a problem building those homes in those locations?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
I would look at the plans,
Right.
and I'd figure out what I got to do tomorrow. And I kind of think of what I had, how I was going to do it. I'm going to lift this wall, and I'm going to put the sheet on it, and I'm going to do this, and I'd plan it, and I kind of go there the next day and do it. But because I was so inexperienced, I did a lot of things like the hard way. But
Yeah.
sometimes I did things like the contractors that come by, they became my friends. I said, gee, I never thought of doing it that way.
Oh, cool.
you know
Very cool. Very cool.
yeah.
Um,
I put up a big ridge beam in our Tudor house in Carpenter, when it was like a 6 by 18, like 20 feet long,
oh
and
wow.
I had to go like up in the air 20 feet. And I didn't have a crane or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
So I'd lift one end and block it up, and then I go lift the other end and block it up.
Yep.
And I did that for 20 feet.
Oh wow.
Yeah, sitting in, I mean, it took me 2 days to put it up in the air, but that was,
Oh,
how I did it.
that's pretty cool. Well, that's just ingenuity, right?
Yeah, really.
So what? So back to Sid for a second. What nutshell his message for me?
A nutshell is that, yeah, we create our thoughts, and we create our world with our thoughts.
Right.
We create it all. And by changing our thoughts and changing the way we think, we can change our world.
So this is a huge
But
question.
that's my nutshell of it. Linda's
Yeah.
probably different. But
Well, and everyone's take is going to be a little different. But
yeah,
say if so, my experience with that is, if I train with an instructor who's 20, and then someone else trains with him when he's 40, the message is the same. The teaching style, it's all a little different, but it's the
yeah,
same. So
right.
you said to change your thoughts. So at that time, what was Sid's take on changing your mind, changing your thoughts? Like, was it an active? Could you do it actively, or was it a passive?
No, it was like passive.
Right.
And I think kind of, just because you asked that, and I'm just trying to think. I think what happens, he'd point out stuff to you, so you could like see your. That's what he called it. See your behavior. See what you're doing.
Right.
See your negativity. See your ego. See your jealousy. See your pettiness. Whatever. If you could look at that and see that, then you could change your thoughts. If you saw it, if you really understood it, you could change your thoughts, and that would change that change that change that outlook. And the what you wanted was what you wanted to do was to be in, and you want to feel good. You want to be in love.
Oh, I like that. You wanted to be, did you, I think what I just heard was you wanted to be in love.
Yeah,
That's very cool. That's very, very cool. What else?
What else?
I mean, that was a pretty good nutshell. Do you, this is kind of a silly question, but if you could ask him something today, what would you ask him? Or would you just go to work?
Yeah, with Sid, I kind of didn't really ask him a lot. What we did is just hung out,
right?
And you could really learn from that. I think one of the things that he told me, or that I got, the understanding that I got is for a long time everyone wanted to be teachers,
right?
And teach and Sid wanted us to go out and teach too, and I kind of did go out and teach, but my heart was never, I wasn't a teacher.
Right.
And I think that what he gave to me is if you go out and do your work, and you do it honestly, and you do it with your heart and soul, and you do it with love,
right,
then people will come to you,
right,
and because they recognize you've got something. And people have come to me and asked me questions, and I've said stuff to people, and they go, "Wow, that changed my life." And I go, "It did?" What did I say?
Yeah, totally.
And
well, that humility, right?
And I think that if you're meant to be a teacher, it'll just kind of happen,
right?
And I think if you go about your life and doing whatever it is that you're doing, then, and you do it well, then that's it.
It's funny. I was going to ask you about why you never felt compelled to share, because it does seem like so many people. And again, I don't know how many people came and went. I just don't know the community now, but it seems like there are a lot of teachers, and then there are people that are right there at day one, or virtually, that aren't teachers, which is kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, well, we went down, and I wanted to be a teacher. Huh? I wanted to be a teacher at one time, but what happened is I found my ego would just get so into it, and you get so involved with people, and it wasn't good for me as a person, because pretty soon I got really, really cocky and really kind of arrogant, and really kind of playing God and thinking I knew something, and like.
Right, yeah.
That's a good place to fall from,
Yeah, shit. That's right. That's a long fall.
Yeah, really, and I wasn't, I'm not there. So I found it a lot easier not to be a teacher, and just live my life,
right?
And my pursuit for truth and beauty and love and all that is always there, but it's always my, and me and Linda talk about stuff like this all the time. Like we talk about, our spiritual life. It's, it is our life.
Yeah. Well, and I think we'd probably be better off as a species if more people spent more time on the spiritual aspects of life as well.
Well, yeah, I think people really want that. People are really searching. Huh? They're really searching for some happiness and some meaning and some understanding, and they get lost in the material world, and they get lost in glamour, and they get lost in sex, and they get lost, huh? And we're here for such a short time. It's kind of like, it's really easy to lose it, lose your life without kind of actually having taken any steps forward.
Yeah, very true. I would agree. What's were you around when like when you sort of left when you left the teaching community, like
yeah.
how big was the community at that point?
It was really growing, dynamically. Like it was, at one time we knew everybody in the community.
Right.
And one time we knew when somebody was new would show up at a meeting, and we knew that. But all of a sudden it got to the point where there was like lots of new faces.
Right.
And they really couldn't. I couldn't keep up with it. I wasn't. This is a new guy from here, and a new guy from there, and a new guy from here, and.
So how does that change the dynamic of it then?
Well, your attention you get from Sid really gets watered down, because his time is so is so taken with teaching the new important people.
Right. So that I sense there is a can of worms there a little bit.
Well, I mean, it was people that Sid felt could help spread the word, like psychiatrists or psychologists or the people in positions of people with lots of money, huh?
Right.
That's one thing.
I've just sort of got a bit of a sense of that from one of the last conversations that I had with Linda, that there was a fair bit of cash flowing around within communities that were coming to Sid, or within individuals that were coming to Sid.
Well, Sid would talk about that, huh?
Right.
He'd say the millionaires and the billionaires are coming, and I'm going like, yeah, okay. And I guess we're all kind of scrabbling to make a living, huh?
Right. Yeah.
And Sid wasn't a wealthy man,
right.
But and we just kind of knuckled down and went into business. Linda's like a genius with business. She just kind of blossomed, and I mean, she's they had her as business person of the year, and she's been in magazines and all this kind of stuff. Is kind of that the hippie soap maker that ends up with 6 stores and 250
that's okay.
All that stuff,
That's it's very cool, and I do find it, I don't know, somehow really intriguing that the people that didn't go on to be teachers were really seem to have become really successful.
Well,
it's really cool, and not that the people that are teaching now aren't successful or did not become successful.
Yeah.
It's just neat that you became successful outside of the world.
And I think that we all ended up in our lives, if we were being successful, we ended up sharing it with lots of other people in different ways. It wasn't talked about, or it wasn't formalized, but just by an example,
right?
We became inspiring to other people.
Well, that's something that I've taken away lately about the importance of sharing via your daily action, by the life that you live.
Yeah, exactly. Just a minute. Linda's telling me something here. I'm just sure you come here.
Yeah, jump in.
I have to tell you this funny story.
Okay, go for it.
This just happened 2-3 years ago or something. I think I was already retired, but the chamber, they have small business week, right? So they decide that I should be their feature speaker.
Right.
And I say, like, my friend who runs the local newspaper is part of the, in the chamber, part of that business group. And I say to her, like, me? Why me? I mean, give me a break. There's, and I said, there's a lot of people making big money on Salt Spring and doing different things. And she said, it's not about that. It's like, you're one of the most high profile business people on Salt Spring Island. It's like, huh? So anyway, I go and I give this talk to people. And one interesting thing is there's a lot of really young people there, like say 20s, 30s, like when I started out, during the whole soap. And that was interesting. A sort of young entrepreneurs there, not just sort of people from the business community, but there's a lot of people there. And of course, as usual, I don't think like have a prepared speech. What am I going to say? I just get up there and start winging it. So idea is about being a success in the, sort of, they want me to talk about how to be a success in business.
Right.
And it kind of stops for me for about 10 seconds, I guess. And I say, it depends what your idea of success is. And afterwards, when I thought about this, I thought this goes way, way back to Sid and values and things he taught us. I said,
Right.
it depends what your idea of success is. And I said, if it's about money, this is really crazy, because 20 years ago, like, I had opportunities, move the business to Vancouver, get a big warehouse. What are you doing on Salt Spring? It doesn't make sense. You ship everything over here, make it into little soap, ship it back, all that stuff. And I said, depends what your values are. For us, it was like, hey, we get to live in the country on Salt Spring Island.
Yeah.
We can get out and go to work when we're busy, 7 days a week, work 12 hours a day, and then we can take off for 2 months, and it depends, like, what is your vision of success? For us, it was like being able to live here, raise a family here. And I kind of went on like this, and that it's not about like, how big can I grow this company? How much money can I make? And it was interesting afterwards, because some of the sort of, like, say, the old guard and whatever, it's like, this wasn't kind of, I think they weren't quite comfortable maybe with my speech, which was just not what
Right.
they were expecting about
Right.
success. But the interesting thing for me was all of these young people came up to me afterwards, and it's like, wow, that was so incredible. That was so amazing. That's what we needed to hear.
Right.
You
Right.
just do what your thing, you do what you love. It's about your life, and it's not about dollars.
Yeah.
All and that's what really blew my mind, is these younger people and they're doing all kinds of things. They're making jam and making soap and making handmade leather shoes and God knows what. But the feedback was so powerful from these young people. It's like, oh my God, we've never heard this before. That was so amazing. Now I know where I'm going. I know the direction to go in. And it really made me think a lot. And I thought, that's sort of going back to those days with Sid. It's like, what's important? Not money, not success in a worldly way. What is your definition of success?
Yeah.
Well, with Sid, it's your family. First of all, your spiritual life, who you are, your family, your life, all of that. And that was really, to me, a powerful lesson of, without ever mentioning to them, well, look, I'm on the spiritual path, and here's what you should be doing.
Right.
Like you're trying to teach them something, and yet whatever I said, it just blew all their minds. So I just wanted to interrupt and kind of tell that story. And that same thing happened with Bill, like building and stuff. Like he says, he's just there hammering nails, and suddenly he's one of the top 3 building contractors on Salt Spring Island.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, I'm out of here.
Out of the hot seat. Hey, Bill. Thanks, Linda. So we brushed up against it a little bit. And you said that you stayed friends after sort of the formal teaching time, or whatever. Does Sid change? Does Sid change? Do the teachings change as the community around him grows?
Oh, sure. He had the flexibility. If you're talking to, I guess if he was talking to some hippies, us hippies, kind of back to the landers,
Right.
it'd be one thing. And if he would, gee, I'm just thinking. Actually, probably. I don't know. I know the way he talked to me, and I've been with him when he was talking to the Intelligente.
Right.
I think he kind of always talked the same, but he just kind of. I don't know how to answer that question. I just kind of know my experience of how he talked to me.
Right.
And the group I was with and stuff, and he always seemed to be pretty pretty much Sid, but he'd be. I know the psychologist and psychiatrist and millionaires and billionaires. He was really impressed by them,
Right.
and that he probably gave them more energy. That's what Sid called it, more energy, because I think that he felt that maybe they were a vehicle to help him spread the message more than talking to hippie carpenters, you know.
Right. Yeah. Do you do you think he was satisfied with that? Like, I guess what I'm asking is do you think Sid ever compromised himself or his teachings or experience in an effort to get the word out?
Yeah, he did. I feel like he did.
Really? Yeah.
And I remember him coming one day and telling me, it's all changed. The whole thing has changed. It's now the principles, the 3P, the principles.
Yeah.
And he told me, it's, oh, it changed. This is kind of exciting. And he told me it's, the 3 principles, and that these could be studied and learned. And he told me about it. And it was just like, it to me, it was like mind, huh?
Right.
It was mind. And when you're talking about God and the spirit and the oneness of the universe and the interconnection of all things, your mind goes into it a little bit, but it's so vast that it soon boggles, and you just kind of bottom out on it. You can't follow it for too long, huh? You just kind of sit there and listen with no mind,
Right.
which is what you want. But when I heard about mind, consciousness, and thought, I started to analyze it and try to figure it out and try to explain it. And I felt, for me, that I don't want to go there. Even though I love Sid and was with him, and the teachings, for me, it was, and I tried. I tried to listen to it, but it was just, it was like trying to study a koan or something, it's just kind of like.
Sorry. That was funny. That's it, man. Just totally lost the plot there. So did you, how often did you get to see him? Like when things start to take off?
Well, before things started to take off, when it was just with Linda, we'd probably see him Linda would probably see him 3 or 4 times a week, and I'd probably see him a couple times, huh?
Right. Wow.
And we used to do things socially, like we go into our old Impala, and we go into Victoria and go to the thrift stores and go to the cheap eats, and just hang out. And we'd smoke a joint and listen to music in the old Impala and rattle along, and it was great. It was as good as it gets.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So what was? Hold on a second.
You just kind of get that contact high from him, and you get laughing, and you get into the present, and you get into the love of life,
Yeah. Well, and that's sort of, I was just going to ask, what was he like? Like, I'm starting to get an idea of what he was like outside of Sid the teacher. I mean, a very, very small through you guys, right?
Yeah.
Like, a little bit through Sherry as well. Like, what? I want to try to, I'm trying to get a sense of what it was like to walk through Victoria or walk through Vancouver, go into a thrift store with an enlightened dude. Like,
well, yeah, you know what it was like? It was like we go in there and we'd start looking to see who could find, hey, look, I found a pair of blue jeans. Oh, hey, look, I got a pair of runners. Oh, hey, look, I found a new pot, and you'd be kind of like, hey, look what and it was just like really fun.
yeah.
Like, doing the first time he said, we went to Nanaimo with him, he says, we're going to go to this place I know, the Exclusive. He called it the exclusive. And we went in it, and it was like a thrift store. And like I didn't go in thrift stores, huh? I had my middle class thing, you know, that you buy
Right.
at Walmart, you know. I mean, it was, you
Yeah.
know, it was you didn't go to thrift stores. So we went in the thrift stores, and I had psychologically, I had this kind of like almost kind of an embarrassment to go in there.
Yeah. Oh, I get that.
Yeah. But we went in, and I dropped that, huh? Because Sid wasn't doing that, and it was like, oh, this is fun, you know. I can do this.
I just remembered what it was. They used to say, "We're going to take you to this exclusive French boutique."
Oh, is that what it was?
That's what they told Bill and I, and we get there, and I don't know if you have this back east, the Value Village.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is the name of the,
Yeah.
you know, organized huge thrifts. They're the size of department stores. Anyways, when we got there, they said they kept telling us exclusive French place, boutique, you'll love it. And the stuff they have, it's so different. And then they called it, when we got there, they said, yes, here it is, the Value Village. Very, very French. But that was Sid. I mean, everything was just, like when we hung out with him, it wasn't talking usually about, you know, higher truth. He was just like the funniest, most entertaining guy on the planet.
Well, that's what I mean, right? Like what I mean, that does it justice, right? You're hanging out in thrift stores, you're partaking here and there, and just kind of living the life of young people back at the time. It's super cool.
Well, when you come out here, we can do that.
Oh, sweet, man. No, we like I said, we just
we'll show you the good stuff.
Yeah, no, totally, man. Well, we just booked our tickets, right? And it's like, okay, you know, we gotta. What are we gonna do? It's like, well, I don't know. It's kind of like I haven't been on
the Value Village
in 20 years, right? It's like, okay, well, I don't know, but I figure you guys probably know where the cool stuff is.
Yeah. We got some great stuff to show you.
Oh, that's so exciting, man. We're really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we can take you up to the Buddhist monastery, and we can go up there and have tea and hang out a little bit and show it to you. It's probably not like you imagine, but it's neat, and it's way back, like, you know, a half-hour 4-wheel drive, you know.
Oh, no shit. Oh, well, that regardless of what the place is like, that, yeah, I got a visual for that.
Yeah.
Super cool. Bill, I mean, this is the first time we've chatted. This has been really cool. I really appreciate your time. Like, is there anything that stands out that we haven't touched on that you think Sid would want to share? Like, that's not a great question. Like, I don't know. I think I'm drawn back to, you know, what was his original message back then, and you've kind of answered that already.
All inside.
Yeah, you know, one of the things, and Linda, just is that everything we need and everything we want and everything is inside us, huh?
Yeah.
And if we can access that, and that's our lifetime work. We got it all, huh? Yeah. We know the answer. We know the truth. We know what to do, but it's just accessing it. It's all inside.
So what how do you access it?
That's the key, huh? That's what we're, you know, like, I know what I do, huh? You know, I read inspiring works. I meditate.
Right.
I talk a lot with Linda. You know, we just talk about this stuff, and it's kind of you know, that's become the focus of my life is my unfoldment, and Linda's too, and to make myself, you know, I'm still trapped in a lot of ego, and you know, it's there, and I'm trying to understand it, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
You've used the word ego a fair number of times. Was that a big part of Sid's teaching?
Yes.
Yeah, it was. It was.
That was pretty quick.
Yeah.
What I know I'm going to try to stay on an hour here, Bill, but can you share a little bit about what Sid said about the ego, or how he described the ego?
Mostly it was when we were lost in it, huh? If we were mad at something, or we're bragging about something, or he would say, there you go, that you're that's just ego. And it was always kind of like a little bit of anger, huh? And for sure that when he pointed it out, and I felt that reaction, that was a good clue that that's what it was. Oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay, that's the feeling that's what it is. Or when I got defensive, or analytical, or evasive, or any of that stuff, huh?
Yeah.
And I mean, I still do all that stuff, huh? I still do it, but and I think that probably goes on forever.
Yeah, that's my suspicion.
Yeah. But I think it goes on forever. But it gets less, and you get more power to deal with it and recognize it quicker.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to add to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did Sid see the ego as what am I trying to ask here? A necessary, not a necessary, but I mean, everyone has an ego. What would Sid say was the function of the ego? Like, why do we have it because it seems to just cause us grief?
I'm just answering for myself. No, I don't.
Yeah, of course.
It would have said, but I think it's probably just to help protect this temple, to help you take care of it to play the game of life, just to house the soul, but it's kind of taken over, huh?
Yeah. So do you think there was a component to the ego at some time in our development that was different than the role it seems to have taken on now?
Gee.
I was sort of out of the blue, brother. Sorry about that one.
The spirit, Linda's sitting right here. She says spiritual literature says yes, it did have a different place, a different thing, and it's gone. I guess society and the times and everything it's taken over, huh? It's taken over from and we society, culture, it made this really crazy perverted world we live in, and it's made it easier to be lost.
Yeah, I just funny. I was just listening to an audio of Sid's called "Separate Realities," and he touches on the fact that things are the way they are. They can only be the way they are based on our sort of global human level of consciousness.
Yeah,
and you know what? I'd love to hear a couple of your thoughts on. Do you recall Sid talking about levels of consciousness?
Oh yeah, he talked about levels of consciousness all the time.
So and what the hell did he mean?
Okay, well,
what to you? What is it?
You see life from your level of consciousness, from where you're from. I guess if you were supremely enlightened and you just and experienced it, you'd be looking at a lot of white light, huh?
Right.
And colors and whatever, huh? But as it goes down, it gets darker and darker and darker. And I could see a situation as like Trump, huh? I could see something about Trump and get mad and mad and frustrated, or I could see him as a poor lost soul, or see it as being funny. And those are all looking at it from different levels of consciousness.
So that doesn't. So when Sid, because this is a bit of a conversation in the community right now, or it doesn't even matter. It's a conversation I'm making sense of for myself. Is it fair to say that there is in your experience, an overall encompassing consciousness that is filled up with 7 billion plus other consciousnesses?
Wow, that's a big.
Because
Yeah, I think most of the 7 billion consciousnesses are unconscious.
yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
really do.
Right. Right.
And people are just stumbling along, and they have no idea why they're here, or what they're doing, or who they are, or what it's all about. And it's just the status quo. And that's not where most people we can't have a conversation like this with. I've even got really good friends that have had friends for years and years and years that we couldn't have a conversation like this.
Right.
They wouldn't have a clue what we're talking about. If you talked about consciousness, it's kind of like, what are you talking about? Either you're conscious, you're awake, you're unconscious, you're asleep. That's
Right. Right.
you
Right.
know, so I think that most people in the world aren't conscious. I think they could awaken. I think the mechanism, the all the stuff is there, but
Right.
the connections happen that they awaken is I mean that's what the world really needs, huh? The world really 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 needs it. The world really needs it. And
I
a good thing, that's what can save mankind is if that does happen.
yeah, I was, before I ran into the principles, I've been saying for years that people just have to get gooder, because it was the only way that I knew to express
Yeah,
what I thought. We just had to, all of us had to become gooder people.
yeah.
I've got a
Well,
bit,
that'd
I
be
express it a little bit better now, but
good.
so we're just, okay, you know what, we should probably, I'm getting into like on and on mode here. And so maybe we'll save some. Are you okay with this going public, Bill?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I didn't think you'd care, but I figured I better.
you know that's just me rambling on in my opinion. That's
No, totally.
if people can't have their opinion, their point of view, then that's part of what's wrong with the world, huh?
Yeah, 100%. Listen, let's can you regale us with a quick Sid story from your personal experience with him? What do you got?
Let me see. A quick Sid story.
Something we don't have to bleep out or edit, but something. Is there such a thing as borderline risque with Sid?
Sid was really really fun, really, but he was really straight, huh? He was really, and that was an example for me,
right?
And I come from a background that wasn't very straight, huh? And it was a little comfortable but then I got to really love it and aspire for that in my life.
Right.
And I haven't always been successful at it, but that was the aspiration. And Linda, will you quick a good Sid story? Can you think of a good Sid story?
I like the one where him taking off his jacket and give it to Brian.
Yeah.
What was the his favorite place in the world?
Linda said he used to take us to Nanaimo.
Right.
And we went. He would tell us about this place that had this pie. And what it was called Dots. And what it was a single wide trailer kind of parked off the road, and there was this huge woman, like huge, and she made these pies, and her sign was this great big lemon meringue pie, kind of sitting up on a sheet of plywood, kind of painted, and it was dots, and you'd go in there, and it was like a movie set of Greasy Spoon, huh?
Right.
Along there, really narrow, somebody flipping burgers and lots of guys drinking coffee and everybody chatting but these pies would come out and the meringue would be like, 3 inches high.
Oh shit.
And we just all really loved Dots pies, and it was part of it was going there just because it was so outrageous and such. and Sid really enjoyed taking us there. You know, like he would really like to take us there. Yeah, it was his favorite spot.
So what was? I mean, so talking. So I'm going to ask this question of someone who spent time with an enlightened man. What was Sid's favorite pie?
Oh, gee, well, when we went to Dots, I think it was lemon.
Cool.
Pardon?
Was lemon meringue?
Yeah, lemon meringue
Oh,
pie.
that's really it. Oh, that's awesome.
And it was that's not my favorite pie, but when I went there, just because it was so it was their specialty, huh?
Oh, I see. Right.
To go for, you know.
Well,
I'm kind of an apple pie guy myself.
yeah, I was just going to ask. I felt remiss to not ask you. And living on an orchard, it better be. I would hope.
Yeah,
Pie, right? Listen, Bill. Are you good if we wrap up a little bit here?
sure.
Because we've been an hour.
Okay.
I could talk 4 hours. I've got a few things to do still. But what? Any last sort of parting words about anything you want to throw out to the world that whoever might see this?
It was fun talking to you.
No, thank you.
I really enjoy it, and I've never done this before, so it's a new experience. And thank you.
Oh well,
and
thank you.
for asking your questions. And it's funny looking at you like this. I feel like I know you.
Yeah, I was.
And I'm looking forward to you and your wife coming out and